welcome back to Brokenness Meets Grace. We are in our original setup today. And we are so happy and so blessed to have a guest this week. We'd like to welcome Ume Tozama to the show this week. Please introduce yourself, Mama.
Hi, I'm Tozama Lande. Thank you. Nice to be here and thanks for inviting me.
Awesome. Thank you so much for coming. We appreciate you having here. We're so happy to be able to continue with our identity series, which is what we're going to continue with today. And today we're covering it's a very difficult topic, but an important one in the sense that a lot of our identity is misplaced and centered around how we see ourselves after a loss. So today we're going to be covering identity and loss, and how all of that ties into brokenness, and how all of it, of course, comes back to God's grace. Coming back from a situation like that with all of those questions, and without that closure, it leaves an even bigger void. You know, I mean, there's already a void when you lose someone you love, but all of those questions leave an even bigger void. How do you come back from that? How did you find what did it mean for your identity? You know, what did it do to even your relationship with God? You know, I think you have a lot of questions to Him directly in that space, because how can you allow this to happen? And what did it do for you in terms of how you saw Him and how you came into seeing yourself as a person?
I think initially, like I said, I was mad at him. I was mad at God to say he's always been this loving God, but he can't be this loving when he's taken my partner away. So initially, it was just a roller coaster ride. That, look, this is so unfair. This is so, all the negative words and this and that. But again, thanks to this one minister at my church who just brought me closer, firstly with the 13-week series that I attended, which helped me saying whatever happened, however it happened, but ultimately it was bound to happen. Because we're all gonna die, and it doesn't mean God is not there. It doesn't mean God doesn't love us. So, but initially, you know, that it was very difficult to believe that. To say, God, you still there. God, you still love me. And again, my church helped me to, because we had some series. Remember, the churches were not meeting. We had virtual sessions. So there was a time where we needed to address the losses. Some people lost jobs, others lost their partners in this and that. So we had a session virtually, and my minister asked me to talk about my loss, losing a husband. Somebody spoke about losing a job and this and that. And that made me, for the first time, see the world and look at people and be able to share the pain and also the disappointments and whatever that you never expected to happen in life that was still happening. And yes, that helped me in a way. And I will always go back to that 13-week series, because it also indicated that part of your healing is to help others. And I couldn't understand, but 2021 was very rife with the COVID, and we had people losing their husbands. And I remember the one lady, we've grown to be very close and friends. She lost a mom, and a week later lost a husband. When the husband went down to bury the mother-in-law, he got there and was not well, went to hospital, and that was the beginning of the end. And then out of everybody who used to visit here, she specifically asked for me. And I was like, what do I tell her? Because I'm still going through my pain. So we went through that. But even before her, which was around August, in May the same year, I lost a brother-in-law. And it was the main person who we were so close. as the couples. Whenever we go home, we would go sit down, plans, we would share everything with them. So even with my husband's passing, he was the one who took care of practically everything. And even end of the 3 months mourning period, he was there. And I recorded him, his last message. And on the 25th of May, he was involved in a car accident. 29th, he passed on. So now I had to immediately take care of the wife. And I had experienced certain things because you realize only when your husband is not there that you actually don't belong to that family. And you experience a lot of things. So I had gone through certain things, and I vowed that while I was still raw and still mourning, but I won't let my sister-in-law experience what I've experienced. So I had to be strong for her. From day one, I had a checklist for her. And every evening we would go through that checklist. And I went to spend a week in preparing for everything. I was there all the time for it. And then it was this fellow congregant who asked for me. So I got to kind of now try to help others go through it. And then I realized God was using me in a way. Much as people always perceive me as a strong person, which is something that I don't like, because pain doesn't have any strong person. Pain is pain, period. So I got an opportunity of meeting with them, of helping them also live with the pain. Because initially it's so intense, but with time then it gradually subsides.
Definitely. And I think that's the one thing about being in a situation where you have experienced loss, is you go through from a place of feeling like the world is ending, like you are never gonna get out of this pit, and life is never gonna make sense again, to slowly starting to realize, that you still are alive, that you're here, and that life does have to move on, and does have to go on. And I think the defining factor becomes, from that point, what do you do with that? And how can you continue to live in the absence of that person or that thing? But also, I think what God does for us is when we bring our pain to Him and we learn to rest in Him and understand that He can work even through the most painful of circumstances. He can still be the hero of that story through you. He is able to use you in ways you didn't even know were possible. He's able to make you this person, the pillar to people around you, to people who need you, who have gone through what you have gone through, and now you can be the one heroing them, guiding them down the path of grief, which is what you did with your sister.
I know, even maybe just before you come in, like even yesterday, there's one lady, she's still very young, maybe younger than you. She also lost her husband last year. And somebody else called me to say there's this lady at work and she's definitely not coping. Can you come and see her? And I spoke with her. We had sessions, and I told her about the first. Those are very difficult. The first birthday, be it his or yours, the first Easter period, the first Christmas. All those firsts are difficult. So yesterday she sent me a voice note, and I could see she was just broken. And she said it was his birthday yesterday. And I cried throughout the day. Mom, I don't know what to say, but Mom, I'm going through this pain. But I remembered you because you told me about the first, and I had to send her a voice note. And at least when she returned my message around 12, she sounded much better. She said, I know you told me about the first, that they will be difficult, but I didn't know the pain would be so deep. And she's having a child who will only turn 1 November.
Oh my God.
And she says, I still have the first birthday of our child, and I don't know how to handle that one. I said, no, God will see you through that.
Sure. I was gonna say that I think why it's so important to help another person when you're going through a painful process is because, like Shishi was saying now, it doesn't make sense why God allows certain things to happen to us. I don't think we'll ever get the answers to them. Not while we're living here anyway, you know. But I think there's a level of comfort, there's a level of peace when your pain has a purpose.
Yeah.
And if that purpose is helping somebody else, it alleviates that pain a little bit. You know? It doesn't help if you are going through a painful moment and you stew and you sit and you know, curl up in a ball and basically shrivel up and die. But the moment you wake up and you go out and you impact another person's life from your very pain, it takes away that pain in a little bit. It alleviates it, you know? And I think that is the message of every single painful thing we go through in life, that there is a purpose for the pain. We may not understand why, but the moment you are able to advise somebody, to be a shoulder for somebody, to be relatable to somebody, you know, who's going through whatever it is, that's purpose. You know? And that alone is the why, I think. That in itself, that your pain had a purpose, not for you maybe, but for someone else. That should be the answer for that, the questions that we have. You know?
Definitely. And I think, you know, just hearing some of what you're saying in response to the people you have impacted, but also those who have impacted you. You know, you talk about those ladies from the grief counseling, and they had to be your strength, and they could have only been that strength through the loss, through the pain. You know, and in essence, that's what, you know, the podcast is about. We don't hero brokenness. It's not a badge of honor to be a broken person, you know. It's not this great thing. Oh, don't worry, it's for a purpose. No, it's painful. Pain is pain, and we experience it and we go through the motions. But what we want to hero is how, after going through and experiencing the pain, going through the grief, experiencing the moments where you do want to cry up, when God shows up into the picture, it changes the narrative, you know. It changes from this place of brokenness to this place of I took my pieces. He took my pieces and he told a different story of them, you know. The Tozana that you were during that period of loss is not the same Tozana that has emerged.
Most definitely.
And let's talk about that. Let's talk about
most definitely.
Who she is now.
I think now I'm doing crazy things that I thought I would do in my life. I guess I read somewhere that your hands also contribute in healing. Because you can use your hands, and after you've done something with your hands, you look at it and you're like, is it me who've done this? And when you do that, the pain subsides. It doesn't go away, but it subsides. And I put that to test, and it worked for me perfectly. And I think the first time when I thought I was truly getting crazy, because going to work and coming back home, because the one thing that grief will do to you, you become so antisocial. You don't want to meet with people, you don't want to go to places, you just want to be by yourself. Even going to church, it's church and you make sure you sit right at the back. When they say amen, then you are the first one to jump out, you are gone. So the first one, there's a lady who made a hat for me, and I called her and said, that hat was beautiful. I think when I go home, you need to teach me. And she said, no, but the person who taught me is there in Pretoria. And I said, please share the numbers. And she gave me the numbers. It's a white lady at Mountain View. And I went, and I couldn't believe when I did those heads. And I'm like, fascinators and me and the big heads. And I'm like, okay, this is just the beginning. I can do something beautiful. And I need to keep myself busy. The beauty of it is that you become so busy when you sleep, you don't have time to think about anything else. And then I saw a beadwork training at home. And most fortunately, I was going home during that period. It was a 3-day training. And I was like, my mom used to do this and she was very good at it, and I hated it so much. So strangely now I want to do it. I attended the 3-day training, and then I didn't stop. And through my community development work, I remember we went to in Mpumalanga. We met with the Queen there. It was a women's session, and she said something. I was with a friend of mine. She said, these old ladies, please have a program for them. different from the young ones. And okay, sure. We took their contact numbers, then we went back the following week to meet with them. They showed us all beautiful stuff they are doing with their hands, the beadwork, the Ndebeles are good.
Very
And
good.
we had to make an appointment. I personally made an appointment. I told them I'm coming back here. I called the one lady who's leading the group and I said, Mamu Kabini, you're going to teach me how to do those things. I'm going to bring the beads and this and that. And we had a beautiful day with other ladies. They said, now come on this day, we meet on this day. And we did the stuff. So when I went home, they were shocked at what I could do. And the one thing led to another. When I lost my husband on the 4th, actually, of January, I have a friend who lost hers on the 3rd.
Of the same year.
Same, just hours apart.
Oh my goodness.
And she's working for the Defense Force. I'm not working there. I salute that woman. When they say we as women need to be each other's crown fixer, she fixed my crown. Right from day one, she would sit after everybody has gone from both our places. She would write from a notebook, this is what you need to prepare because you don't know the military environment, and take a picture. And we would speak to each other at 11 p.m. every day. And because we are days apart, she would go to AFBOB today, tomorrow I go to AFBOB, I meet her. Go to this place, the following day it's me, and she would advise me, okay, when you go to this place, have this and this ready. So, and then she's making the beautiful earrings, and I said, Shez, you need to teach me. She's Sharon, my niece, and Shez, you need to teach me how to do this stuff. And she said, okay. Then I went to her place, made the earrings, told me where to get the material. I went to buy the material. I met the first friend there, and she just out of the blue said, this place is quiet, and I was like, yes, it's quiet. And that's how we started the conversation, and we shared numbers, and she introduced me into painting. I paint beautiful stuff, and a colleague of mine bakes, and I also called and I said, please teach me how to bake. I started with scones, sponge cake, biscuits, you name it, I do it. So that's why I'm saying I'm doing all these crazy things I never thought I would do. But what I'm doing now, perhaps as a way of showing my gratitude to God.
For being alive.
For being alive, and also using me for other people. Whenever I go home now, I always take groups of unemployed women. I buy material and then I train them. I started with my family, my siblings, and I think when we remembered our dad, the day he passed, I said, let's go home. Just all of us, no agenda, nothing. We're just gonna have fun. And I brought the material and I taught them how to do the earrings. And now I've been to different villages in the Eastern Cape. Whenever I go home, I have a schedule. I have 3 sessions that I need to do when I go home now in September. So
that's your ministry. You know? That's become your ministry from your place of loss, from your place of grief. And that's the thing about losses, I think, because we put our identities to be centered around so many things, so many people, so many things, it actually stunts our growth, you know? And it's oftentimes when we are put in seasons of loss or seasons where something is ripped away from you, that you are actually able to see just how vast your capabilities are, how much you can do, you know? And that's why, because when we're using people and we're using things, even though we don't directly use them, I don't think we have people in our lives and we say, you know, my husband is my crutch, and it's a proud thing. It's not a direct thing that we do, but I think indirectly and subconsciously, we know that that person will always be there. So I don't need to learn that, my person does that for me. You know, I don't need to know this. My sister does that for me or whatever. And we develop a stunted growth, I think, as people that actually inhibits our natural abilities. It inhibits our natural skill sets, God-given talents, even our purpose. You know, we have a purpose. Each and every one of us who are alive have been predestined to have a purpose and to live it out. But we attach ourselves to people, attach ourselves even to an identity. Even my identity as a mother, that becomes a crutch. That's all I'll ever be, you know, or your identity as a friend, or whatever that you identify with, it becomes such a crutch to us that it limits us from being who we were created to be. And unfortunately, it's only in some of the most difficult seasons of our lives when that thing is taken from us, or when we experience the pain of losing someone or losing something. You know how people will tell you, I was retrenched from work and my side hustle became my business. And I learned that's how what I do now, full time, you know. But we were never going to be put in that position had we not been challenged with that loss. And that's the beauty about God and how He works. And even in the most painful of moments, He finds a way to find beauty out of brokenness, you know, and that's exactly what He did through you.
And speaking about identity, whenever I meet with these ladies, I always start with the small talk, and then just asking them to introduce themselves. And you will get the introductions like, I'm Mrs. Lande, I'm a mother of three, I'm working for this, I'm this, I'm doing this and that. And then my next question would be, if we were to take away everything around you,
who are you?
Who are you?
Exactly.
And what is your name? What does that mean?
Who are you? What do
Who
you
are
stand
you?
for?
What do you stand for?
Exactly.
Because like you say, we always identify, I'm Mrs. So-and-so. If Miss Day is taken away, who remains? If those kids can be taken away tomorrow, who will remain?
Exactly.
And what is your purpose? Because every day when you wake up, you need to wake up with a purpose.
Exactly. Sure. So true. Wow. It's and that's exactly it, you know. And the problem is, unfortunately, in a lot of ways, I think we all have a form of idolatry, you know, in people, in things, and depending on just how far, because I'm a firm believer that we are on the path that God has set us on in terms of our purpose. You know, He put us on this earth and He's like, Wena, your job is to do this, that's why you are here. And the further we deviate from what we are meant to do, I think He has to intervene at some point, you know, because His plans have to prevail. They must prevail. And depending on how far we've deviated for whatever reason, you know, whether it's through life, jobs, whatever happens along the ways, even our attachments to people, I think in a lot of ways, how I rationalize it is He needs to bring us back somehow, because the plan must prevail. You know, our purpose and our plan for His bigger plan must prevail. And our identity is rooted in that plan. And when we forget who we are in Him, when we forget what our role is, what our purpose is in Him, He needs to remind us somehow. And sometimes it's through the most difficult and awful things. But after that, when we finally realize, okay, you know, I didn't know who I was. You know, I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know how to achieve these things. And it's like a light bulb goes on in your head and you're back on track, you know, even with that pain. But it's pain with purpose now, you know, and that's the beauty of it. And I just salute you. You know, I really, really do.
You're an inspiration to many.
Really, really. You really are. Me, thank you so much.
And I just want to add in closing as well that I think there has never been a more beautiful illustration of brokenness to grace.
Absolutely.
You know, how even though God allows loss to happen, which is the brokenness element of it, the grace is all the people He's given you now. You know, you may have lost your husband, but He has given you so many other people who form part of the personalities or even the things that He used to be able to bring out in you and to help you with. And He's brought them out in different many people. You know, and obviously, yes, they can't replace Him, but they are filling a brokenness gap in your spirit, in your soul, in your heart. You know, it took loss, sadly, for all these other gains to come. And I think that's what we often miss in seasons of brokenness. We don't miss how much we gain, you know, from the loss. You know, you even said it earlier that God is such a gracious and loving God that He cushions the losses. It's not just a take, you know, but He takes to bring, to give you more than what He took from you. You know, and it's often, we don't see it in that moment because, of course, we are dealing with the pain and the loss of it. But if we learn to see it that way as well, that in our loss, in the pain, there's more that we gain back than what we lose. You know?
I guess in the midst of darkness, God's light will always be there. So even in the midst of pain, God will be there. You know, one friend of mine used to say in our language, "Uthixo akathathi into angashiyi into." God doesn't take something and never replaces it. And he would say, maybe the question is, when he takes something, then what becomes the replacement?
Yeah, sure.
And he would say, "Uthixo xa ethatha into kusala uThixo."
Oh, that's beautiful. That is beautiful.
So
And so true. So true.
So when God takes something, whatever is left there
It's
is
him.
God.
It's him, and that becomes the foundation of our identity. And that's why people will say stuff like, "I'm finding myself again." In essence, what God is trying to do is help you find him again,
Closer
to him, because our identity becomes centered on him. You know, that is beautiful and so true.
Yes.
And we can see it in you. We can see it in you. I don't know you before this period, but if anything,
And it's been such a short period.
a short space of time.
And it feels like very long.
right?
It's like we've known each other for
But I
ages.
mean, in this short space of time, I can see the
change.
impact. You know, I mean, you are driven to do so much for so many people. You just want your hands in everything. You know, the other day she came and she ordered an apron for us. I'm like, why does she want an apron? She can go buy one. But it's just that she wants to be part of as much as she can possibly be a part of and impact as many people as possible. And for me, that speaks volume about what
And we have our upcoming appointment.
Yes, we can't wait for that. She's coming to teach the ladies at the foundation how to make these beautiful earrings. We're super excited about
We have
that.
the deal.
You know? So already, look at the reach.
We have a date.
It's on the record. Now everybody knows.
We have a date. It's there.
You know? But for me, it's just that. God will just make you even better than you were. Even after he stripped you of something valuable to you.
That's the grace element of it.
Of it.
And it's grace upon grace.
Grace
You just
upon
step out of yourself
Yes.
because that's what you need to do.
Exactly.
Just step out yourself and
Yes.
look at yourself from a
Yes.
distance, and you're like, wow, I never thought
I
can do this. You
It's
know,
amazing.
come at me, and you're like, God, you're just faithful.
Hey, that's simple. You know,
God
it's not that simple, but
But it's not that simple.
but that's
And you
really
look at
it.
the hurdles and everything that we've gone through, and you're like, Lord, I know from mid 2021, from May, I started building at home, preparing a space for my kids, and I said, Lord, I don't know how much time I have, but my kids need to have a home. I don't know how many trips I took down there, and I would be driving alone. I would be crying at times because you play this kind of music, it brings memories, you cry, but following day when you play the same song, you smile and think about him. And you think about those trips, and I'm like, Lord, there are certain things I cannot remember how I did them.
I know
You would drive from Pretoria to King Williamstown, and you try and reflect, and you don't know. You can't remember passing certain towns, but you did.
It's like a fog.
It's
you got
like
through it, right?
serious fog, and you're like, but Lord, you are so faithful. Because surely you were driving this car.
But I don't know how I did
Because I don't know how I passed certain areas, and you would pass an area, then there would be an accident before you or after you, and God just cushions you and protects you. And you're like, this God is just so amazing.
Only him. And that's what it's about. You know, he meets us in our brokenness every single time. And he just gives us an unlimited supply of grace. So it's not the end. It's only the beginning. Right? And that's what it was like for you. It was the beginning of so much more than you ever knew was capable of yourself. You know? Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Appreciate you. And we love you. We're so grateful for this platform. We will catch you again at our next episode of Brokenness Needs Grace. Always remember, it may be broken, but it's in the hands of the potter. Bye, guys.
Bye.